you know any Korean?
I can read it, but I don't know the words.
That's amazing.
I can sound out words.
No, because I watch a lot of the Korean shows on Netflix. I just love them. In fact, this one I'm watching, Resident Playlist, because I watched Hospital Playlist, the first one. That was with the older group. Now these are residents, and it's so endearing. I mean, the stories. I get and I love hearing the language. I was trying to learn it, but it's a little bit harder. I was trying to learn Chinese too, and Chinese actually seemed a little easier than Korean. Yes, and I've tried Japanese too, because I'm half Japanese. I'm half Japanese, so I've been there 3 times now. But I'd like to go to Korea. That is too funny. So, what did you go to, like Seoul and Bhutan? No, the food. Like, did you eat a lot? See, I'm not a real big seafood person or meat. I'm more of a vegetarian. So I like the kimchi and yeah, stuff like that. I like pickles. So you stopped eating seafood? Okay. So are you doing it for a certain reason? Okay. Just to try it?
Well, it's because I took an ethics class and
Oh.
talked about
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. People would stop eating any kind of meat if they went to like the farms or yeah, stuff like that. But no, I know because when I was in Osaka, they have those balls with the little octopus in them, and I told my sister, I said, I will try one because I'm here. And then when I saw them, I couldn't do it. I mean, because it's a little octopus. It's a whole body. Well, and they're really smart. That's the thing about the octopuses; they're so smart. Or octopi, or however you say it. Did you watch? Netflix has a show about an octopus. My teacher, octopus, my teacher, or something. It is just a tearjerker. I mean, because this guy follows this octopus. It's like a documentary. But then you learn how smart they are. So. Well, that's so interesting. So because my mom wouldn't teach me Japanese either. I could remember hearing certain words, growing up. But it is hard, and sometimes it's like it can affect how your the way you say English words too. Well, yeah, if you've got the brain that can do that, but well, I know I've noticed there hasn't been a lot of stuff. He doesn't say a lot. So how did your parents meet? How did your parents meet? Okay. And so did your dad's parents come here then? Or?
Yeah, so my dad was born in Korea. Like, he came here when he was like 14. But his oldest sister still lives in Korea. But she was like already pregnant. So, still over there.
Oh, that's so interesting. And so now does he, your grandparents are here then? Your grandparents are here in Minnesota? Oh, he passed away. Do you have any of the I forget what the dress stuff is called? Hanbok? Cool. I know see for me that's when I watch. I like the historical ones because of the way they dress, like in the Chinese history and the Korean history ones. And they're so, it's kind of fun to watch, to see what they wear and stuff. It's so beautiful. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I know sometimes when I watch shows, I'm like, I don't know, I don't think I could dress like that every day. It would be too much stuff to put, you know. Sometimes I just roll on and whatever I got. So, well, that's interesting. Cool. I should probably go to the bath. Oh wait, what time is it? I wonder where. I might run to the restroom. So, yeah. Maybe I better wait. I didn't realize it was so late because it's already. Okay. Yeah, I'll just go when we have. I'll just go when they do the welcome. Okay. So do you guys still live at home with your parents and all that? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I couldn't tell how old you guys were. So what are you taking at UMD? Oh, wow, cool. Have you heard of Go-Go Penguin? I might have told you, because maybe I already hit you. Yeah, because they're going to be here at the Fine Line, which I really want to go, but my husband doesn't like to stand the whole time. So I won't go. I mean, no, I know. I should just go, but yeah, because it's so hard to get them. We haven't heard them here for a couple of years because they're from Manchester, England.
Check.
They're so good, though.
Woo-wee. All right. Hey, y'all. It's me, Chris, over here. It is good to be with you all. We have projector gremlins today, so we'll just embrace them, welcome them. And so you're just going to see like the sweet spot of the screens this morning. You're just going to see the middle, and who knows, you might not be able to see everything you need, and I'm sorry for that, but we don't know. We couldn't figure it out right now. We didn't want to wait any longer because we want to get going, okay? So, would you stand up, please? We want to sing some music together. All right, this one is a good old Switchfoot tune called Live It Well. Yeah, I want to live it well. From my arms, take the anchors off my lungs. Can you clap with me? Take me broken, make me one, break the silence and make it a song. Life is short, I wanna live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I wanna live it well. You're the one I'm living for. Awaken on my soul. Every breath that you take is a miracle. Life is short, I wanna live it well. Yeah, I wanna sing with all my heart a lifelong song. Even if some notes come out right and some come out wrong, 'cause I can't one shot, one life to live, one life to live. Yeah, yeah. Life is short, I wanna live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I wanna live it well. You're the one I'm living for. Waiting on my soul. Every breath that you take is a miracle. Life is short, I wanna live it well. You're the one I'm living for. One life, one life, one love, baby, that's one life to live, one life to live. All right. Well, welcome once again. I'm so glad you're here this morning. Normally, we may take just a brief moment here to get ourselves grounded and centered and calm and in this space. This morning, what I'd like you to do, as our version of that for this morning, is I want you to get yourself moving just a little bit, okay? Whatever it takes. Need a little something. Feel it in your bones, okay? It's so easy to just sort of melt yourselves into the moment here, and I want you to feel yourself. I want you to feel your body. Whatever it takes, give yourself a little. Yeah, okay? Yeah, maybe it's not the expected thing, but let yourself feel a little bit alive. Okay? As always, I hope that you bring your whole self. You don't have to leave something at the door here. All of it is welcome. We got people to hold all of it with you. So yeah, that's what this song is about. This is from our friend Derek Webb. They're all atheists.
Kids, feel free to go back to level up today. There's Luigi. Woohoo! Aha! That's all right. I'm only up here just to dismiss the kids, but now I'm really excited to welcome for her first ever welcome, Hannah Brandon. Hey!
Thank you, Ian.
You bet.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Fabric community, both here in the room and who are joining us on live stream. We're so happy that we're together. My name is Hannah. I've been coming to be a part of Fabric since November. I attend with my husband, Todd, and my 2-year-old, Mary. Every Sunday, we drive home from this place and we kind of talk about our big takeaway. It's not always what Ian says. It's oftentimes conversations that we're having in the hallway and lyrics from songs. Mary Bell is ready to level up. So the kids all just left for their Level Up series, which ends today. And the kids are learning all of this fantastic knowledge about how to be part of community. And that's something here. I'm going to hold you. You want to say hi?
Hi.
And this is also our final day of the Sandbox series, where we've been kind of talking about how to show up in community when it's complicated and being part of a culture where it's not all good things, but we want to be good people. You want to talk about refreshments? We love coffee. At any point during the service, you can get up, move around, be yourself, and grab a cup of coffee. We also have the Nest, which is where Mary Bell and anyone ages 6 months and older, up to 3, can go and play with toys in the library. I want to give a special welcome to anyone who's here for the first time. Okay, there might be a little screaming, but yay! See, this is great. There's also restrooms over in the hallway over here. There are accessible restrooms, and there's signs to get to them if you want. There's also a changing table back there. Now I want to turn your attention to the Sunday paper you might have gotten at the door. It says a little bit about what's happening this summer. We're going to be here for the month of June, and then on June 29th, which is Pride Weekend, we're going to be out in the community. So you show up as Fabric out with others, or you can join other members of Fabric out in Pride. And then for July and August, we're going to be at Minnehaha Falls. This will be our first summer as with Fabric, and I'm really excited to see what this is like out in the pavilion over at Minnehaha. There's also a communication card in your papers. This is a great way to communicate with the people who really make the decisions around Fabric. Tell them what you like about it. If you have any prayer requests or comments, it's just a way to help shape the conversations and weave the community here. Now I'm going to encourage you to say hi to one another, maybe talk about some gardening projects that you have going or whatever is helping you feel grounded as the summer begins. Thanks.
Rhythm here. Are we doing the song next? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, great. We're just going to welcome the live streamers. Hi, live streamers. It's Ian. And hi. I know for sure that Melissa's watching from home right now. She's who usually does this, And so, hi, Melissa. I hope you're doing well. It's good to be gathered together. We're finishing up the Sandbox series and kind of looking at like where is fabric in the ecotone that we've been talking about, the spaces kind of between different biomes. And so we're locating ourselves in an ecotone as opposed to in one side or the other with our heels dug in. So I hope that there's something in this gathering today, whether it's a lyric or something you hear in the message or something you just heard from Hannah that is going to stick with you and that you can carry with you and kind of chew on for the week. Hope you're all doing well. Drop a comment in if you're watching live. Let us know that you're here. It would be great to just know that you're with us in community in the way that you're able to. And with that, I don't think I have anything else. So happy Sunday or whatever day you're watching this. Good to be together.
Bringing all of you. This one talks about being free. So whether it's within yourself or among others in the world, we want to cultivate some of that liberation, that freedom. So this one's called Free by Gunger. There's a world at war, caught in suffering, silent casualties. Oh God, grant us peace. In these sleepless nights, I can hardly breathe. Despite brutality, I know that we'll be free. I know that we'll be free. Let the light, let it shine, let it break into the darkness. All the love there's us to see, we'll all be hard times. Love will hold us here. Love will join our hands, teach us to have no fear. So we lay our head down, wash their feet. When we see our brother go, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. Sing this out. Let the light keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love there's us to see. We'll all be free. Keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love there's us to see. We'll all be free. We'll be free. Free. 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 We'll all be free. We are free. Free. We'll all be free. We are free. Free. We'll all be free. Let the light into the darkness. Let it break into the darkness. All the love there's to see. We'll all be free. Let the light keep shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love there's to see. We'll all be free. We'll all be free. We'll all be free.
All right, band. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Ian. It's good to see you. And we are, first of all, thank you for your patience as we've been trying to figure out our tech glitches today. We're getting like the very middle of our slides really big. So whatever's in the center is really important, I hope, because that's what you're going to see. We'll find out. We are wrapping up. This is week 6 of the Sandbox series. We've been looking at like the reality that we live in the sandbox. We are trying to figure out how to play in the sandbox, how to play well with others, right? And it's not always easy, especially in a culture that likes to dig our heels in and be divided, right? And so I'm going to invite you just to go to the back of your Sunday paper, grab your pen, because we are going to fire hose our way through a review of the last 5 weeks, okay? So all the fill-ins might be on the screen. We'll find out together. I'll tell you what they are, though. So we started with examining the difference between lines in the sand and walls that we put up to divide. That fear has a role in our lives, whether we like it or not, and fear builds walls, but they're not always walls. When fear is present, here's your first one. When fear is present, and when fear gets in the driver's seat, it wants to build walls, where maybe suggested boundaries have been, or noticed boundaries, or noticed differences. Oftentimes, fear wants to build a wall in that space. And then in week 2, we unlearned isolation through vulnerability. It was May 4th, and for all the Star Wars fans in the room, we did an exploration of this through The Mandalorian, who might be on there in a minute. The walls that fear builds. Hey, there's Grogu. So cute. The walls that fear builds cuts us off. The walls that fear builds cuts us off from others, certainly, who are over there and we're over here. We miss out on the chance for authentic connection with others. But also the walls that fear puts up cuts us off from ourselves. Like we forget who we are sometimes underneath that armor. Like the inherent kind of gooey middle of us, the humanity in us, the soul that longs to connect, not to divide, the soul that longs to unify. We kind of lose touch with that when we are so focused on the walls and where we are in relationship to those walls. Then in week 3, we talked about ecotones, which is where a space where diversity thrives. It's an ecological term where one biome, one environmental area meets another, and it creates these zones called ecotones, where like swampy areas and grasslands meet, and there's unique species that are there. And there's incredible diversity and like really rich soil, but also incredible competition, and it's messy, and it can be an uncomfortable place to be. And then we talked about interfaith and intercultural dialogue with a new friend in the Sandbox, Peter Digitale Anderson from Peace Catalyst came and spoke with us about how interfaith and intercultural dialogue stretch us beyond our comfort zones, but also push us toward meaningful work for the sake of justice and peace in the world. And so those skills that we can develop for things like interfaith work actually are translatable into places like intercultural work and racial justice work and like how do we be a good neighbor? Like these are skills that are transferable into our lives in very practical ways. And so Peter kind of taught us what he was getting at a little bit is that fear, the fear that wants to throw these walls up, fear is informative, yes. Like fear is the reason that our ancestors survived. Their fear is why you're here, right? But it's not, fear's informative. But we get to choose to employ these different postures instead when we're feeling fear. Humility, curiosity, and humor are the 3 things that Peter encouraged us to take on as postures when we're in difficult conversations, when we find ourselves in the sandbox trying to figure out how to play nice with others, is a posture of humility, curiosity, and humor. And then last week, Dave Scherer was with us to talk about justice and embodiment and how those things keep us rooted as we learn to play in the sandbox too. As we embody the work of materializing Jesus' big vision of love in the world, what he often called the kingdom of God, as we embody that work, we will face challenge, we will face discomfort, and Dave encouraged us to remember to ask these 2 questions. The first one is, am I unsafe or am I just uncomfortable? Am I unsafe or am I uncomfortable? And secondly, the question to remember to ask, am I trying to learn or am I just trying to look good? Because he said, there's a quote that he used that from an author that I can't think, Julia Cameron, I think, who said that you can't learn and look good at the same time. And I, personally, a week later, am still feeling convicted by that. Because I want to look good, I want to have my stuff put together, and I want you to know how put together I am. Truth is, I'm a mess. So if I'm looking really good, it's probably because I'm not learning anything. And that's no way to be. Okay, so this week, now we've caught up. Do we need to take a breath? That was a lot. Here we are, week 6, in the sandbox. And today, what I would like to do, simply, is to name that fabric stands in the ecotone, in that messy middle, in the zone where different worlds intersect. I think this is where human organizations and churches and all sorts of places actually thrive, is when we don't have our heels dug in on one side or the other, but actually being in the middle and figuring out how to do that. That is tough work. So we're talking about it today. And so this kind of sticky sort of question for me is, what does it mean to be a group of people who prioritize belonging before strict belief, right? What does that mean, and why does that matter? So just revisiting the ecological definition of an ecotone, because we're making this claim today that fabric is in an ecotone and kind of always has been. So an ecotone is where two ecosystems meet, where like coastlines and forest edges, river deltas, zones of tension and abundance is where we are. It's where we always are when we gather together, but also when we go out into the world. And you can think of your own interpersonal relationships, your families, your workplaces, where you go to school, your neighborhood. There's all sorts of places where we can identify that we are in ecotones, whether we like it or not, despite our best efforts to live separate from others. We find ourselves in the ecotone. And so there's the interpersonal ecotone, there's the environmental ecotone, but I would say that we exist in those places, but we also exist in a sort of religious ecotone, a spiritual ecotone, between belief and doubt, between sacred and secular, tradition and innovation, individual journeys and communal practices. These are all, neither one on either side or the other is good or bad. They are, and we're in between all of it. This is our positioning. They're all parts of the ecosystem that sometimes rub up against each other, right? Tradition and innovation, sacred, secular, these things can sometimes rub up against each other, and that is an uncomfortable place. But they're also places of intense growth and diverse life and transformative possibility, and they're uncomfortable because these ecotone places are harder to define. When you're in one of these sides or the other, that's hilarious. When you're in one side or the other, it's easy to define, right? I am purely in an innovative space over here. Or, tradition. It's the only song I know with that word. It's easy to define when you're on one side or the other. But in these ecotone spaces, the edges are fuzzier, and there's a temptation to throw walls up. And that makes sense, right? Because it can be scary to be in places where two realities that are both true, are both real, rub up against each other. And it can feel dangerous. And this is where Dave's challenge for us from last week is actually really important. To remember, am I actually unsafe? Is this dangerous? Or is it just uncomfortable and new, right? If we don't realize that we're feeling uncomfortable, we often end up feeling like we're unsafe. And then we go into that kind of fear response of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and the other one that I can't remember. I think that we are in a culture that has become really gifted at digging our heels in and kind of arbitrarily picking one of these sides or the other and digging our heels in those spaces from ideological extremes. But as humans, and remember, put your hand on your chest and remember, I am human. Humans have evolved to be loving, to be tender, to be empathetic, to want to connect, to be contemplative and soft. At our best, that's who we are. We're not ideologues. Recognizing and embracing that we're always in ecotones is a deeply countercultural move. Participating in creating the world that could be Again, what Jesus called the kingdom of God, what we often talk about as being God's big vision of love. Participating in creating that only happens because we learn to play in the sandbox. And so, again, 18 plus years ago, when Jacob's Well, when Fabric was founded, it was with this incredible vision that at our best, we live in these in-between spaces, and it's okay. It's okay. We're safe. We might be a little uncomfortable, but we're safe. So, I'm wondering if any of you have ever had one of those experiences, like a dream that just is a little crazy, and you wake up and you go, that was real, right? Or like a vision in the daytime. I had a vision when, like a beautiful sunset that stopped time, right? Have you had these before? These kind of experiences where you kind of wonder, should I tell people who I'm close to? Because they might think I'm a little nutty. I've had a lot of these, so I'm going to just, I've had dreams where, people who have died are visiting with me, and I wake up, and all I can do is just, sob for the whole day, because it was just real. It was just that real, right? It was that meaningful. One of the worst days of my life, it was in 2022 in January. My cousin Katie died. Younger cousin. My parents are here. And I was going to say I had to. I got to do her funeral. And before going to the church where we were doing the funeral, my colleague then at the church I was working at said, "Can I pray with you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I'm just deep in it, deep in grief. And I remember this posture. She had died, and for the week leading up to the funeral, I just had gotten really tight and small. My shoulders were folding in on themselves. And I remember my colleague saying, can I pray for you as you prepare to lead the service? And instead of doing the sort of flowery pastor kind of prayer, he didn't even address God in this prayer. He prayed to my cousin Katie and said, can you be in the room with Ian? And she was a trainer. She was a personal trainer, probably one of the strongest people I've ever known. And in that moment, she grabbed my collarbones and pulled them back and just kicked me in the spine. My whole posture changed. And it was one of those moments that, if I were to tell you this, you would think I'm kind of crazy. So I'm not going to tell you about it. But these experiences are real, right? Whether they come out of deep grief or out of whatever, these experiences happen. Sometimes when we need them, sometimes when we really don't. And there's a story from the early church that's like this. It's a Bible story from the book of Acts, which is the life and times of the early church. And it's one of those stories where there were two people who both had one of those experiences that they could have kept to themselves, but instead they did something with it. And so it's the story of Peter and Cornelius. So Peter is he knew Jesus. He was one of the disciples. Now he's, telling the story, kind of reliving the story with people. And this story is kind of following Jesus, all the reports of Jesus' life and teaching, his execution by the state, his resurrection appearances, and then he disappears. And now all these people who are left are going, what do we do? How do we organize around these teachings, right? To materialize goodness in the world, to make it happen. And Peter is in the middle of all of it. So he's the Catholic Church loves to talk about how Peter was the first pope, all right? And so here's how the story goes. I'm not going to just read it. I'll just tell you the story. So there's a guy named Cornelius. That's a photograph of him. And he was a Roman centurion, so he's a soldier. He's been raised in like the Roman tradition, right? He knows all the Roman gods. He has been in the temples. He's learned just this. He's what in the Bible they call a Gentile, which just means he's not Jewish. At this point, all the Christians were Jewish, so they're like Christian Jews. There's a whole lot of history there. We should talk about it someday. But just know that plays a role in this. So Cornelius has learned something about the story of Jesus, about his teaching, about what his vision for the world was, and he's really been deeply moved by it, apparently, because he's living it out in the way that he's able to as a centurion. So he's feeding the poor, right? He's giving away everything that he owns. And he has this vision at night, and an angel or some person shows up in this vision and says, you should go from the town you're in, Caesarea, which is on the eastern edge of the Mediterranean Sea. Go from there about 30 miles south to Joppa. And there you're going to find Peter. And Peter will have something to tell you. Okay. So he comes out of this vision. He's like, I could not tell somebody about this. But he did. And he sent for Peter. So he sends some of his personal employees, I don't know. And they go to find Peter. So Peter then is in Joppa, 30 miles away. And he goes up on the rooftop. Here's another photograph. This is Peter. And he's up on the rooftop praying and meditating and being contemplative like that. And has this vision himself where, do you see that like sheet in the sky? A sheet comes down filled with animals, filled to the brim with all sorts of animals, cows and pigs and other things. You know, you fill in the blanks. But this voice comes and says, Peter, go, kill, and eat. And Peter's looking at all this food. He's a devout Jewish person. And there are laws that he's been following his whole life to not eat certain things because they're not clean. If you eat them, you become defiled, right? And so there's these strict rules. This is a line in the sand that became a wall. Hint. And he said, so this voice says, go, kill, and eat. And he says, no way, I have never eaten anything unclean. And the voice comes back and says to him, the voice said to Peter, what God has made clean, you must not call profane. So then he sits down and he sulks, and he's really crabby, pretty ticked off, because how dare this voice from heaven? The nerve. And so, but as he's sitting there sulking and being mad, there's a knock on the door. The people downstairs say, Peter, you've got guests. And he comes down, and it's Cornelius' people. Long story short, Peter ends up going with them to the home of Cornelius, who then they meet face to face. Here's another photo, I think from some made-for-TV movie. And so they meet, and they come face to face. This is a risky thing, right? Peter is an early practitioner of Christianity, like the way of Jesus, and this Roman centurion poses a threat to him. And also, like, Jews and Gentiles are not supposed to be being around, they're not supposed to be doing this, talking with each other. And Cornelius says to him, hey, I was given this vision, and you were given that vision, and here we are together. And I think you have something to tell me. I want to learn from you, because you knew Jesus. And so he says, tell me what you have to tell me. And what's kind of cool is I don't know if it's going to all be on here, but the words that the Bible says in this book of Acts, it says that Peter opened his mouth and said. That's an interesting detail that usually they would just say, he said, "Mwah." His mouth dropped, his jaw dropped to the floor. He's being encouraged to tell a message to him, and Cornelius is like, that's distracting, isn't it? And all he can get out is this phrase, that what he says to Cornelius, Peter says to Cornelius, I'm just beginning to comprehend that God shows no partiality to any one group of people over another. I think this is one of the most important things, like learnings in the early church, that a lot of churches today intentionally don't read. That a key part of being a church is this recognition that God doesn't show partiality to people over other people. I mean, that defies the very essence of a lot of what you think about when you think about like the noisiest Christians on TV or in the neighborhood. I don't know that they've ever read this. Peter is confronted with a challenge to his religious boundaries, right? Jews and Gentiles, clean or unclean foods. And then he has to reconcile the collapse, the crumbling of that wall that he has built up when he was pressed to share this message with Cornelius and just says, I am just beginning to understand that God shows no partiality. Peter is in a religious ecotone in this moment. The early church's growth and kind of the beauty of these early stories depended on being willing to live in that tension, in that space. My belief is that in the coming together, when we come together across difference, there's that space between us that as it gets smaller, for me, that's where I have identified God. That God shows up in the coming together between difference, between people. Like listening well to each other, loving each other, despite difference. And so I would say too then that the Spirit of God, the creativity, that spirit of creativity and liberation for all shows up not in safe, bounded zones, but in ecotones, in the sandbox, in the coming together to experience unity in diversity and the beauty of mutual respect. Fabric has always been in an ecotone. Not fully inside sort of traditional church forums, but also not outside of the religious landscape either. Not demanding dogma, but also not avoiding depth. It's a place where people who don't know what they believe and people who have really strong sense of what they believe can come together and go to happy hour and have really good conversation. We have chosen for 18 plus years curiosity over certainty. We've prioritized belonging over belief and questions over answers and being community over demanding conformity. We've held space for people to play with ideas and identity and the concept of faith and to deconstruct what no longer is useful or liberating, but also then to reconstruct something honest and meaningful. And let's be honest, that's hard work. That's tricky ground to be on. Sometimes people leave, right? Because it's just not black and white. It's a little harder to define. While others stay because it's real enough to be meaningful. And we don't do it perfectly. As a community, we don't do it perfectly. But I think I've said this umpteen times. Perfection isn't the goal, right? We're not going to do it perfectly, but we're also, not going to pretend that we do. there is fear in the Ecotone too. I just want to name that being in the Ecotone, it's not just this like intellectual like, oh yeah, like we're in the in-between. Like there's fear there. It's hard. It's tough to be in that space. There's fear of saying the wrong things, and there's fear involved in letting go of some of those really hard walls that we thought, some really strict beliefs that we thought we had to believe. Maybe we inherited them from our communities or families of origin. We have fear that nothing solid will emerge. There's fear that being open means being lost. But also the gift is real too. Like the possibility is real too. In our coming together every week, throughout the week, in all the ways that we do, we're being formed into people who practice walking with integrity and with compassion and with resilience, not in spite of ambiguity, but through it. And that is life woven deeply. I think much like Peter, we resist, and then we leave room for grumbling on the rooftop. But then we expand, right? Let's transcend, what is it? Transcend and include? Yeah. And so, my invitation to you is to stick with it, to get comfortable with the discomfort. We are wrapping up our Sandbox series, but we're moving into Unleashed over the next 3 weeks. And so during the next 3 weeks of Unleashed, we're going to pick it up from here. Because we're not just in the Ecotone for our own good, right? We don't exist in these tent spaces just for our own growth and development. Sometimes we do. That's okay. But we also find when we're in those spaces that we end up being shaped into community, that we get to do this together. And that's really where the juice is. Like when we can talk to each other, learn from each other. We're being shaped into a community that acts and remembers that we belong to each other, that we are a part of God's vision for the world, and we belong to all others in the world. It's that kind of being stitched together, being fabric, right? That's what this is all about. And so Fabric's next season is about deepened ownership and belonging and a sense of impactful movement for all ages. And in fact, in a little bit, the kids are going to come in here to share a song that they've been working on too, because their leadership is really important too. So I'm excited. I don't know this song, so I've been like intentionally not listening to the MP3 because I want to hear it from the kids. So we're gonna be starting next week, kind of reviewing the conversation that we had a couple months ago at our latest What's Up with Fabric gathering, and talk about the kind of conversation that can be had when so many voices are welcome at tables, and then move into kind of like what's possible through us, through Fabric. What's possible when we are gathered together, because we gather together. And so my invitation is this, that to play on the Sandbox, we're not wrapping this up and saying, tie a bow on it, now we know how to play well in the Sandbox. This is where it begins, right? This is the launching pad. And to play in the Sandbox, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to be willing to show up with those 3 things that Peter told us about 2 weeks ago. With curiosity, with humility, and maybe even with good humor. It's in the Ecotone spaces, I believe, that the spirit of connection, the spirit of creativity, the spirit of God Himself shows up. And so we get to move and shake our shoulders and kind of figure that out together. Yeah? With that, I'm going to invite the band to come back up. We'll do a song and then invite the kids in to share a song with us too. Thanks. Thanks. I didn't. I forgot. Sorry. I'll go grab it. the kids.
Well, this is a great moment for you to finish up your communication cards and pop them in those little white baskets in on the floor in the aisles. And as always, we're just glad to be making this community together, and thanks as always for your support. If you're new around here, just know that we're just glad you're here, and we don't expect you to put money in the pot or whatever, but yeah. So kids are coming back in here pretty quick, like Ian said. I'm going to sing. You can't just sit and sing this. Once again, you're going to have to move around a little bit. Yeah, all right. Hope you'll recognize this. One of my guilty pleasures here. All right, I'm serious. You guys got to stand up when we're singing this one, all right? Waking up to ash and dust, wetting my brow and I sweat my rust, breathing in the chemicals, breaking in, shaping up, and checking out on this prison bus. This is it, the apocalypse. Whoa, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones to make my systems blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Whoa, 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 I'm radioactive, radioactive. Whoa, 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 I'm radioactive, radioactive. Raise my flags, down my clothes. It's a revolution, I suppose. We're painted red to fit right in. Whoa. Breaking in, shaping up, checking out on this prison bus. This is it, the apocalypse. Whoa, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones enough to make my system go. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Whoa, 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 I'm radioactive, radioactive. Whoa, 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 I'm radioactive, radioactive. All systems go. The sun hasn't died. Deep in my bones, pain from inside, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones enough to make my system blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Whoa, 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 I'm radioactive, radioactive. Whoa, 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 I'm radioactive, radioactive. Yeah, all right. Hopefully God gives you a little energy to go out and be you this week.
to spread the love of God to everyone. Gonna get a little crazy, yeah, a little wild. Here we go now, come give it a try. Move it to the left now, move it to the right. Find someone you don't know and give them a high five. Stomp your feet louder. Yeah, you guys are doing awesome. Wave your hands up high. Come on. Find somebody else now and give them a high five. Let's go. Here to spread the love of God to everyone. Gonna get a little crazy, yeah, a little wild. Here we go now, come give it a try. Move it to the left now, move it to the left now, move it to the right, move it to the right. Find someone you don't know and give them a high five. Come on, you guys are moving great. Stomp your feet louder. Stomp your feet. Wave your hands up high. Come on, wave them up. Find somebody else now. Give them a high five. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, 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 Come on, one more time. Move it to the left now. Move it to the right. Find someone you don't know and give them a high five. Oh, stomp your feet louder. Wave your hands up high. Wave your hands up high. Find somebody else now and give them a high five.
All right. Woo-hoo-hoo. Thank you, level up leaders. All right, I'm going to ask all of our level up kids to come join me on the floor, like right here, and sit down. And then, if you are a recently graduated from high school graduate or their family member, could you come down and join me down here too? And then Heidi, I need you over here as well. Yay, graduates. Yay, graduates. So these amazing high school graduates have recently, Sophie is a high school graduate, and then Sage and Luke Hawkins also graduated high school too, so send them your warm welcomes when you can, yeah. We at Fabric, I don't know if you've noticed this here, this big tapestry of woven goodness represents lots of life moments for us. Last year we tied some knots for the graduates, and we're going to tie some knots again. So Sophie, and then Heidi, I'm going to invite you to do the other two, will come on up and tie your knot on while I impart these words to you. As you move onward and upward to whatever is next, we, your Fabric community, who have held you while you've been here, will continue to hold you forever. You are deeply woven into the big tapestry of us. As these strips of cloth are added to our wall, we have for you, too, a strip of cloth for you to take, with some reminders. As you start to imagine where the road may take you, step out into brave uncertainty. With the people you meet along the way, I encourage you to choose connection and, of course, share warmth. Think big as you face life's challenges, and always, 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 above all else, put a little fun in the game and whimsify. Congratulations. Yay. Thank you. You guys can go sit down now. And then, similarly, our middle school and high school leaders have spent the last 6 weeks plus of Level Up like just showing incredible growth and leadership skills. We have tasked them to be in charge of kids they haven't met before. They have led stations. Some of our kids, show up on a Sunday morning thinking that they're going to be in charge of a station or one group, and then next thing you know, they're in charge of a completely different group in a completely different station. And they've shown incredible flexibility and growth, courage, enthusiasm, confidence, and excitement. I cannot believe how much these kids have grown, particularly our leaders have grown over the last couple weeks. So we've invited the middle school and high school leaders to, if they want, also tie a knot to mark this growth that they've been through. So, yeah, if you're a leader, stand up. Yay! Yay! Woo, 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 woo. All right, Heidi, there you go.
All right, if you are going to weave something and step forward, otherwise you can sit down, because now it's the time of Level Up, where we give a challenge, a leadership challenge to all the kids to take on throughout their week. And let's this little quick. Raleigh, where are you? Do you want to do it today? Okay, here we go. All right, let's see what's under the mystery box today. Oh, okay. So listen up. You can help me pass them out, but just hang a second. All right, your challenge is to share with at least one other person something that you would like to remember about your time at Level Up. Maybe you've learned a new leadership skill. Maybe you've practiced something. Maybe you've had so much fun at something you want to share it with somebody else. All right, so that's your challenge. And on your fruit snack is the cheat sheet that says lead with your life, where you can lead with love and integrity and faith. And what was the one today, Raleigh?
I can't remember. Enthusiasm.
That's right. All right, Raleigh, would you would you give one to everybody? All right, grown-ups, you are not left out of this as well. I bet there's something that you've heard as you've sat and listened to the Sandbox. There's a lot of stuff in there to wrestle around with, right? So I want you to think of one thing that you would like to take with you from this series as well and share it with somebody else and share them what you learned and experienced throughout this series. And come back next week because it's going to be an unleashing experience. So thanks for being here today. Go sit down. If you already got your fruit snack, you can go find your parents.
I know where my parents are.
Well, let's look for it.
All right, you're free to go. Have a great week, everybody. Waking up to ash and dust on my brow, and I sweat my rust. Breathing in the chemicals. Breaking in, shaping up, checking out on the Texan bus. 'Cause this isn't the apocalypse. Whoa, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones enough to make my system go.
age. Welcome to the new age. To the new age. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm radioactive, radioactive. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm radioactive, radioactive. All systems go. The sun hasn't died. Deep in my bones, straight from inside.